Hey, this is Ghost Tracks Podcast. I'm your host, Tina. Thank you for being here for another episode. You might say I went for ambiance today. I worked all day, kind of a little bit of headache going on, but I am here. You can't see in front of me, but my mommy bought me some really cool lanterns for my birthday, and I have them hanging up in the room. So it's just adding to the nice quiet light that I have going on in here, setting the mood. It's just me today, as you can see. All of my creepy friends, Molly and Minnow, they've all gone back to the States from whence they came, sadly. I'm trying really hard to convince all of them to move into my direction up here to the great Indiana. It worked for Minnow. She's going to be here in a few months along with her creepy niece, and I'm so fucking excited. Like, I am so fucking excited. Molly, I think, is going to take a little longer, though, sadly. So I have to settle for just the visits, I guess. I'll survive. We've been apart this long, truthfully. I don't think we've lived in the same state, well, since we were both in Washington. And I left Washington the last time in 2013. So it's been 12 years. But, yeah. I don't know if you guys can clearly see it's, a little drowned out back there if you're watching the video. I figured out how to put my cover art on the TV. Not that it's doing a very good job of showing itself. But pretty excited about that. I don't have, the fancy signs that people have made for themselves, with their podcast names or anything like that. So I figured I was going to use what I had, and TV it is. But I think it's time to get this party started. I apologize if you can hear cars driving or dogs barking or kids playing. It's still very bright outside, despite what it looks like in here. It's not even 8:30 out, and there are lots of kids out fishing across the street at the pond, which I love seeing. So I'm not hating too much on it, but I apologize if it's coming up onto the recording. I'll do my best in post-editing to hopefully get some of that noise out, but we're just going to deal with it. We're going to roll with it. So, what are we talking about today? In my everyday life here recently, I have done a lot of talk about cryptids. I'm not really sure why, but I've not disembarked the cryptid/creature train yet. So today we're going to be talking about another mythological creature/cryptid. It's from Native American folklore. So I'm just going to give a blanket trigger warning now to the episode. As I know, discussing this particular creature in those cultures is still believed to bring it forward and cause a lot of upset and panic. So initially I was going to be like, trigger warning every time I go to say the name, or I was just going to try and avoid saying the name, but unfortunately it's just not really an option. And just a lot of not unnecessary trigger warnings, but it is going to add some time, and I might not catch myself to say it, and then I will have said it. So I'm just going to blanket warning here. If you are not comfortable listening to the episode because of what I'm discussing, that is completely fine. I absolutely understand. No judgment here. I get it. I know somewhere in the episode I do discuss another mythological creature/cryptid that is also, I want to say problematic, but it's not problematic. It's a very deep ingrained belief in the native cultures, and I want to respect that. So, I will say, and I wrote it in here to say trigger warning before I say that creature's name as well, just so that you guys know and have the option to skip ahead a little bit. Because again, it's just even saying the name for some cultures, it brings on fear, and again, is believed to bring forward these creatures. So I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but yeah. So, blanket trigger warning. Go ahead and choose whether you're going to listen or not. No judgment or hard feelings. Skip the episode. I totally get it. We'll see you next time. So here we go. Last trigger warning. Okay, well, not the very last. I'm going to give it one ahead of the other creature, but for right now, we're going to start talking about our episode and what creature we're getting into. So we are going to talk about Wendigos today. I'm not really sure why I have seen so many art pieces, stories, posts, like picture renditions, like they have been everywhere for me recently. Not sure what that means. Hopefully not trying to recruit me for cannibalism. I'm not feeling that vibe, guys. I'm so sorry. But yeah, it's just been crazy. So I thought that it would be pretty cool to look into the history and the legends of them, kind of where they originated from, the stories about them. Obviously, I could have gone down the deepest, darkest rabbit hole. But in an effort to stay consistent and do my episodes, I didn't do that. So we are going to, I think I did pretty good. Hopefully you guys like the episode. But what are Wendigos? They are a creature, as I said, that originates from Native American legends of the Algonquin, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. I'm so sorry if I am not. I looked up the pronunciation, and we all know that that's not always correct either, but I'm doing my best. So Algonquin speaking people, and they're from the Canadian region. Though the tribes that were in the Algonquin speaking people, they were also found in like the northeastern coast of the Americas and as far west as the Plains region as well, both America and Canada. Stories of the Wendigo were passed down by the Algonquin speaking peoples, as I said before, and these included the Ojibwe, Cree, and Naskapi. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. To name a few. They were passed down through oral traditions, which I think it's just so beautiful. I really wish that my family had, like, I don't know, my grandmother, I'm so sorry, I'm already going off on a tangent. My grandmother was born and raised in Edinburgh, Scotland. So Scottish traditions, folklore, all of that is very deeply ingrained into our family. But what apparently was not deeply ingrained in our family was telling us those stories. And I really wish that, as I've said before, I was born overseas. I was born in England, stayed in Scotland for a little while. I really wish that I had, like, stayed there for longer, or maybe I'll go back. Maybe I'll just go back. It's fine. I can do a podcast from there. But I want to know so much more about the culture and the folklore and from the people there, not just reading it on the internet, right? It's not the same. Just the same as hearing native legends told by native peoples. Like, I think it's just fascinating. It is such a cool thing, a goal of mine, really. Once Minnow gets here, actually, that's something that we're both going to try really hard to do, is to go to, like, the powwows and just native. We're trying to, she is native, both Alaskan and Native American. But I just want to be with those people so bad. Like, their culture is so incredibly fascinating, and just the connection with nature and people alike that they have is just, it touches my heart. And I just want to know more about it and know the people whose culture it is. So that's my little side tangent. Sorry. But yes. So these legends were passed through oral traditions long before European settlers came to the Americas. Them white men and women. Sorry. Oral stories have had many names for the Wendigo, such as Achin, Chinu, and Kewok. And again, I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing these. The term Wendigo was actually popularized in 1910 by an English writer named Algernon Blackwood. What a name. In a novella called The Wendigo. And I hope that this Algernon gave credit to the natives for their stories. He probably didn't, but maybe he did. Guess I'll have to go find the novella to look. But it's kind of a white people thing to do, to just jack somebody's culture and be like, eh. But 1910 is kind of recent. Yeah? Technically, the first known written account of the creatures was in 1636 by a Jesuit missionary, Paul Lejeune. I am butchering all of this. I'm so sorry. You're going to have like 5 million apologies for me this episode. I believe that may be French. It looks French. Could be Italian. I haven't spoken Italian since high school, and I have never spoken French, so. Laissez. There's my French for the day. But much like the variations in the legends, there are also variations in the description of the creature as well. One version of its physical appearance is that of a large cannibalistic skeletal monster with ashen skin and glowing red eyes, large deer antlers atop its skull, and a heart of ice. Could you imagine seeing that walking around just fuck your life up? No thanks. While others just describe it as a huge, monstrous humanoid beast of around 15 feet tall. Either one, I'm not subscribing to. I would really rather not run into that in the woods. For legends, some say that the creature was once a human who, out of desperation and starvation, succumbed to a terrible hunger and practiced cannibalism to survive. Once human flesh was consumed, it became a need and it corrupted the humane side of the person, and they gave into this insatiable need for flesh, thus turning the person into the monster. Another version of the legend says that the Wendigo is the result of an evil spirit with the ability to possess a person and transform them into the creature. No matter what version of the legend you believe to be true, the end result is always becoming the creature and having a need to consume human flesh. These creatures are also said to have inhuman strength, stamina, and they are able to move as quickly as the wind, which is where I believe the alternate term windy boy comes from that people have been known to use instead of the common name. In conjunction with their strength, speed, and stamina, they're also said to have exceptional hearing, eyesight, and smell. So basically, they're moms, is what I'm hearing. At least this mom, because I too have exceptional hearing, sight, and smell. My kids forget I hear everything. I know it all. I see it all. They get away with nothing. Okay, maybe slightly. And they might get a little bit of a way with some stuff. But for the most part, I catch all the things. Okay, here's my double trigger warning. This is about the other creature that I was going to just it's literally just a blip in here. Go ahead and skip ahead about 30 seconds. Now, I've seen some people use the terms Wendigo and Skinwalker interchangeably, and I just wanted to bring up that these two creatures are two different entities. While they both originate from Native American cultures, the characteristics of both are vastly different. And one day I'm definitely going to release an episode on the other creature I mentioned above, but I think I'm going to do it a little bit further down the road. I just don't want to put too many of these like culturally sensitive beings on episodes like too close together. I kind of want you guys to listen, at least a few times out of the year, right? So now we know where the legends originate from and what the creature is, but why does it exist? I love a good legend, and I love it even more when there's a damn good moral. Like, who doesn't love, Disney? Given the good moral, the stories. I love it. At first glance, you might think, cool, it's just like, don't eat human flesh. Got it. Don't worry about me, right? We're not at any risk of doing that. But it was more than that. When these legends originated, they were in times of great need, right? People lived outdoors primarily. You couldn't just pick up and go to Walmart and Kroger and go get yourself some groceries. You were reliant on hunting and gathering skills. You were reliant on the seasons, time of year, time of day even, what other people may have been in the area competing for that food as well. This was basic survival back in the day. These legends came about to warn people of the destruction of self that would occur if they gave in to the most basic of needs, hunger. Have you ever considered being that hungry? Like, so hungry you could eat a horse, right? We say that all the time. We're so hungry we could eat X, Y, and Z. We're starving. And I'm not saying that people in today's age don't know what starving, like truly starving is, because obviously they do. Like, I am not that naive. I know that starvation is a real problem here in America, in third world countries, overseas. Like, I know that. But if you're listening to me speak, while you might be very hungry sometimes and maybe your checks don't extend long enough, but chances are you're listening to a podcast, right? You've got some downtime. You're not starving. Certainly not like natives were back in the way, way back times. So we're so hungry we could eat a horse, but what about so hungry you could eat your neighbor? And I'm sorry, one of my neighbors is a giant asshole. I would never even consider eating them. Like, they probably taste really bad. This isn't Lord of the Flies, but it could have been that desperate back in the day from time to time. Probably more often than not, honestly, depending on where, like what region people were living in at the time. And practicing cannibalism was immoral, as it should be. I don't think we need to say that. And it was a warning to giving into greed and selfishness, self-control, self-discipline, and it seems like faith were what you were striving for when faced with such a horrible state, such as starvation. Would becoming a Wendigo be worth it to you? To lose all sense of self and wander alone, exiled, no longer even a shell of yourself. I feel like some of that is applicable to everyday people. Like, again, moral of the story. Are you going to do something? Are you going to commit such an atrocity that you are risking losing who you are, right? So, moral of the story. Are you going to give in to greed? Are you going to give in to selfishness? Are you, I kind of want to say gluttony, but I don't feel like that's, like, I don't think people were gluttonous back in the day, right? Today, absolutely. But were you going to give in to those needs, into those baser desires, and risk losing who you are at the most fundamental part of yourself? I love stories like this so much. And just how much you can take away from them, like pick them apart, get them down to bare bones. No pun intended here, being that we're talking about Wendigos, who are bony little creatures, not little, giant creatures. But this isn't a fantasy Disney fairy tale, and I'm here for it, right? I like the hard stories, the hard lessons. So now, if we're not speaking of just the metaphorical, and we're actually able to transform into a huge skeletal beast with antlers, red eyes, and a heart of ice, are we just destined to live like that forever, indefinitely? What about being vanquished? Like, how does a Wendigo go about being unalived, if you will? How do you kill a Wendigo? Yes, there is a way to kill him. From what I have researched, and again, I didn't go like nose deep into this, like I did not jump in. But I do know that from what research I did, it doesn't look like just any Joe Schmo can like walk up to a Wendigo and, you know, do away with it. In the legends, it says that the only way to kill a Wendigo is for a shaman to do it. So you gotta have a shaman in your back pocket. Okay, you gotta be friends with one. I do not know a shaman. I know people who do know shamans, and I mean, I'm a practicing witch, but I am not a shaman. But that being said, some say that the shaman must use either steel or silver to kill the Wendigo, but the most effective way seems to be fire. Fire bad, right? Frankenstein said it. Apparently the Wendigo say it too. So there was some other things in there as well, in regard to how to kill it. There was talk of like having to remove the giant heart of ice first and melt that alone. Like do a little stabby stab and then a little chippy chop get it out of there and then put that in the fire alone, or if it would be equally as effective to just burn the whole creature. I'm not really sure, like, what the steps are, like, technicality-wise. But overall, it seems like the heart has to be melted for the creature to be truly vanquished. So, those are the legends. That's where they come from. That's how you kill it. And that's the moral of the story, right? Don't be a greedy, selfish jerkbag and go eat your friend. Like, don't do that. So, I thought that it would be cool, albeit a little scary, to find a story of a Wendigo encounter. So, of course, I took to Reddit because, to my knowledge, no one I know personally has had a Wendigo encounter. So, I jumped on Reddit and I found a pretty good one, if I do say so myself. Okay, so this story was shared via Reddit by Bacon Beatdown. Grade A name. Absolutely the best. So, Bacon Beatdown writes, I've been debating on sharing this story with anyone outside of my small circle of people that were there, but I want to share my experience in hopes that it saves someone's life or to give understanding of what someone else has experienced. Late fall in 2010, I was in northern Canada and I went deep into the wilderness with my father and my eldest brother to hunt for moose. Have you ever had moose? It's really good. Like, real good. We left in the early morning just before sunrise, trying to cover as much distance as possible before nightfall. We traveled winding rivers and had to repeatedly portage over rapids all day. We decided to set up camp just over halfway to our destination. My father figured that we'd make the rest of the journey tomorrow. Well, when everybody had bedded down for the night, I decided to grab some firewood and relieve myself down by the bank of the river, just out of reach of the light from the campfire. Out from the tree line about 15 yards away, I could hear rustling in the bushes. I watched the area where I heard the noises and focused on that spot. I felt kind of funny, like dizzy/lightheaded, and I could smell this putrid stank, like old milk or rotten food. Neither one of those sounds great. Then I saw the trees start to morph and move ever so slightly and began to take shape of a head and slight facial features. My eyes began to adjust to the dark, and along the tree line, I could hear this voice coming from over there. I recognized it. The voice sounded like one of my relatives who had recently passed away. The face took shape of my relative. "Hello," they said. "I've missed you. Come see me." I smiled and I stepped forward a bit, but stopped to analyze the situation. My relative's face stopped smiling and became emotionless. The skin began to morph and turn pale and peel away. Chunks of flesh from their cheeks began to fall away, and I felt shock and fear overwhelmed my body. I couldn't make sense of it at all. So I started to back away and make my way to camp. I didn't realize at the time that I had been walking towards the voice and I was further away from the firelight. The voice became angry and began shouting at me to come here. So I turned to run away, but as I looked back one more time, I saw the most disgusting thing I'd ever seen. It was rotting flesh on gnawed bone. Ugh. Caved-in eyes and a hollow chest cavity, this humanoid creature was tall and super thin. I ran as fast as I could, trying to yell for help, but the fear made my voice quiet and raspy. I ran along the riverbank, and I could hear the heavy breaths and the stomping feet from this thing right behind me. I made it onto the top of the riverbank, but it grabbed a hold of my leg as I jumped up. I gripped and tore the grass, trying to lift myself, and yelled as loud as I could. Then finally my voice came back and I yelled that someone has my leg. My brother woke up and ran over to where I was. Then he just pulled me up and took me over to the fire. I was terrified, trying to explain what I saw and that it looked like my relative, but not. I was trying to convince them that I wasn't just seeing things, but my brother nodded his head and said, "I saw it too. I know." And that solidified it. He acknowledged that it was real. We stayed up all night after that, rifles loaded and close by. We packed up when the sun was coming up and went back home. We haven't shared that story with anyone out of fear of being labeled as crazy or liars. I've had nightmares and couldn't sleep for months afterwards. I would see things, dark figures looking into my window, or hear whispers when I was walking home at night. Eventually, I was seeing this dark figure daily. I went to medicine men and shaman for help, but I've learned that the ceremonies only relieve it temporarily. Friends have given me everything from protection pouches to certain crystals. I found out that there is a strong possibility that I encountered a Wendigo. I learned that if you encounter one and survive, it attaches itself to you like a parasite. I learned that it could only do this if it touches you, which it did. Ever since that night, I've been on edge. When I enter any forest or wooded area, which sucks because I loved being outdoors, hunting, and in nature. Now I always feel like I need to keep my back against something when I'm out in the wild. Anyways, make your own conclusions about this. I've paid a price for being an ignorant child to the stories of old. They are real. I can attest to that. Stay safe, everyone. Eek! So, what I am learning from this episode is that I better watch my back in the woods this summer while I camp all over the US and Canada. I'm happy that the writer is safe, but it is unfortunate that it seems like this creature has attached itself to you and almost has like a permanent residency in your life, in your mind. I mean, trauma does that, but it seems like creatures like this can just get on in there and stay without really any help to get them out. But I'm glad that you are physically safe, and I hope that the mental and emotional side of this gets better as time moves on, although that's probably a lot of wishful thinking there. But I'm also glad that you learned a valuable lesson about surroundings and how sometimes legends might not just be legends. And as the writer said, stay safe, everyone. Thanks for being here today and listening to another episode of Ghost Tracks Podcast. You can find me on all of the social media. I have TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. Molly and I made some really good TikTok videos while she was here. Pop on over to our page, Ghost Tracks Podcast, on TikTok. In all social media, it's all the same. Give us a like, follow, and a share. If you have stories of your own, like the one I read above, I'd love to hear it. You can go ahead and send that over to me at ghosttrackspodcast@gmail.com. Tell your weirdo friends about me. Spread the good word. And as always, stay creepy. Bye.